Recognise this fellow? Yes, of course you do. He hasn't changed a bit throughout the 80s. He brought his own special style to Grandstand. Although today he's Mr. Football, he still returns to Grandstand for many of the big events. Who else? Our Des.
I am the greatest of all time. I'm pretty, I'm fast, get your money, fill the arena, get there early. I knock the chump out. I'm the greatest, I'm fast, I flow like a butterfly, I sting like a bee. I'm pretty. If you talk shy, if you're going 5, that's what I'm do. Get him in 2. I'm the greatest of all time.
Well, everybody loved you for that in this country, but you created a lot of enemies, didn't you, in the States? Because people wanted you...
Not really enemies, people who wanted to see the big mouth shut.
But now that the Olympic flame has arrived, the stage is set, or very nearly set, for these 1984 Summer Games. You know, despite the Eastern Bloc boycott, there's going to be 140 countries here, very nearly 10,000 athletes, the most for any Olympics at any time. And the feeling here is we are going to see excellence, and those records are going to tumble.
This is pretty silly. I don't remember David Coleman doing a lot of this. I've just been handed a piece of paper here that if it's right, it'll be the most dramatic story out of these Olympics or perhaps any others. It says, Ben Johnson of Canada has been caught taking drugs and is expected to be stripped of his 100 metres gold medal, according to International Olympic Committee sources. A report from the IOC Medical Commission, to be presented to the Executive Board later this morning, Seoul time, reveals that Johnson took anabolic steroids before his historic victory over Carl Lewis on Saturday. All these events live on the programme. And of course, this is the time of year when the League Championship will be settled, the cricket season's about to get underway, and flat racing gets fully into its stride. We'll continue to do our best to cover sport in the way that you like, backed up by our highly professional team.
It's a 1,000,000 to 1 chance that's just happened, and it would be wrong to apportion blame at this stage, but, you know, just hopefully...
I've just heard in my earphone, Mike, while you're talking, that the race has been declared void and will not be rerun.
In that case, all the stakes would be refunded, Des.
They'd all be refunded?
And on the day, yes, all the punters would get their money back.
Now, do I take it from what I'm hearing that the race will never be rerun this year? That's our understanding of it.
So I just ask everybody here, including you from the BBC, to leave the course and get out onto the public highway immediately.
Thank you, Charlie. We will do that almost immediately. Just to say at home, I'm afraid to say the Grand National for 1997 has been ruined, has been spoiled. You heard Charlie Barnett, the clerk of the course. The race will now not take place. An announcement will be made in due course. Will not take place today, he reminds me. It may take place on another day, on Monday. Who knows? We'll sort that out in due course. But it's a rather sad day, I'm afraid, here, and we'll leave you just for the moment.
Do you know what, right?
Go on.
I was outside and there was this Parisian guy selling merchandise. I think it's unofficial, but I had to get this. You've got to see this, Des.
And God is here, Des. Now, Grandstand, it wasn't your first programme on the BBC, though, was it?
No, I did a thing called Sportswide on Nationwide. It frightened the life out of me, that. Grandstand was much easier, although difficult enough, as you well know.
Oh, I know.
But, yeah, I did my first Grandstand about 79, I think, when either Frank or David was away, ill or drunk or something, I can't remember. But they pitched me into it, and it was pretty fearsome. And then I started doing it more regularly in the 80s.
OK, well, let's talk about a few of those clips we saw there. What were you doing in the bath to start with?
Well, that was an idea of a chap called John Phillips, who used to be the editor of the programme. He had an extraordinary imagination. I think that's how we'll describe it. And it was it was going through the motions, a sort of fantasy of what the players would do before and after the game. And I went through the various manoeuvres. It looks ridiculous now. I think you had to be there.
Because it's funny, Frank Boff was saying that, you know, he was so disciplined, never allowed to have a sense of humour, and he envied you when you came along and were allowed to.
Well, we just did it that way. I think that Phillips, who was the editor, had a very good sense of humour. We just had some fun with it, really. But I was interested to look back at the car there in Los Angeles in 1984. What happened was they got this wonderful car. It was called an Excalibur, which was a kind of copy of an old car. And that was the opening link to the whole of the Olympic Games. I had to memorise it. It was about 2 minutes long. I'm not very good at that. And I just almost perfected it. Got almost to the end, 10 seconds left, and a police patrol car came along and said, "Would you get that car off the highway, please?" What? And I had to pull in, and we had to do it all over again after we got the requisite permission and all the rest of it. So it was quite a daunting day. Fun though.
And that scuffle behind, I think we've got to clear that up. Tell the story about it.
Yeah, a lot of people talk to me about that. That was another idea we had on April Fool's Day. And they had I think they got a bit too realistic, the boys in the background. They were supposed to just push each other gently, you know. I think one pushed a little harder, another one socked him. But we had, I think at the time, something like about 100 phone calls saying these people should be sacked immediately.
Oh, really?
There was a big reaction to it, and a lot of people to this day still recall and say, do you remember that day those people got out of order at the back of the show? And it was all staged and set up, and we had great fun.
Well, we're in this set, I mean, there's Christmas trees all over. I mean, you brought Christmas trees to Grandstand, no doubt.
Did I? Well, you reminded me of that earlier, but I don't
tree.
remember actually doing that. But if you say that's right, I guess it must be right.
How do you look back on Grandstand now?
It all flashes by, doesn't it? It all goes so quickly. I mean, Muhammad Ali there, when somebody asked me the other day about one or two of the clips, I remember that Ali came in and he asked to come in on that show because it was after he'd finished boxing and he found himself in the UK, and a representative of his phoned me up and said, could he come on the show? Because he wanted to show the British people that he still could float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. And as you saw, sadly, he couldn't. He was already showing signs of his illness. And the repercussions from all those punches that he took down all the years.
But again, it shows how great the programme was that people wanted to come on it.
I think so, and also on that day, the only time, you know, the camera guys here and all the rest of it, they're usually reading novels or writing novels while the programme goes on. On that day, to a man, everybody, when he walked into the place, they all stood up and gave him a round of applause, and it pleased him so much I could see the delight in his eye. And it was terrific. I'd met him a lot when I did the radio in the 70s, while Harry was doing the television, and to see him again then, it touched me actually. I found it very sad.
Yeah, it was, because he was the greatest.
Oh, absolutely, yes. The great icon of the 20th century as far as sport's concerned for me.
Now, you still come back to Grandstand, and the Grand National, it's had its moments, hasn't it, Des?
It has aged me. Jenny Pittman's aged me.
We look forward to your chats with Jenny.
Yeah, she's here today at the lunch. It's great to see her again. She looks so fit.
I know.
All that fitness she's doing. But yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of disasters with the race that never was, the false start, and then of course the IRA bombing thing, and they were daunting days really. But you know, one was called a disaster. When the race didn't start, it was called a disaster. It wasn't. It was just a cock-up really. And but the second time, the bombing incident did upset everybody's day, and to what purpose? And it was awful. But thankfully, they ran the race on the Monday. It was a huge success, and we got a bigger audience, I think, on the Monday than we usually got on a Saturday. Yeah. So it didn't daunt the British people, and they got on with it. They said, let's do it. Let's take part in it. All the owners and trainers brought the horses back, and the British public watched in their millions. I think 12 or 13 million.
Was it a sad day for you when you sort of went away from Grandstand onto others, or not?
In some ways, yes. I mean, it was just a practical thing, really. We got the football contract back, and they wanted me to do match of the day, and the other and of course we had live FA Cup at the time too, and there was a lot of football around, and Sports Night was still on the air, and it was just a practical thing to do that, and of course you couldn't do both, and that was it really. But I had a great time on Grandstand, worked with some terrific people, and I still come back from time to time, as you say.
And seeing everyone here, it must be a great day.
Unbelievable to see all the old faces.
And you've just had a winner.
I did back the winner. Yes. 5 each way at 2 to 1. It's not going to change my way of life, but it's a winner. 2 to 1 winner's better than a 20 to 1 loss, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now you've owned horses, I know before, a horse. Now, Bits, have you? What about
John Motson and I have gone into it again.
Oh yeah.
Foolish. We go to these lunches, you see, and we've gone into it again. John and myself and 4 other guys, and it's going to be a jumping horse. It won't race until the new year.
Well, John named Football Focus, didn't he? So has he been in to try and claim the name for this horse?
We're thinking of calling it Out of the Blue. The reason being that we both started on radio, on Sports Report, and that was the signature tune, and still is, for Sports Report now on Radio 5. Out of the Blue was the tune. Didum, 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 diddle, didum, didum. Do you know that one?
That, no.
It's still on, no, but you're always working.
Exactly. Well, you're always working too.
Yeah, so we're probably going to call it Out of the Blue, but we've got to get the agreement of our co-owners for that one.
Oh, right. And you'll let us know when it's running and give us the nod if it's going to win.
Do you think I'll know? You know what these trainers are like? They don't know, do they?
Have you got a tip for later on?
No, I haven't looked at anything else. I just looked at that. Well, it's not a bad shout to follow Frankie Dettori, but I just looked at that race. And Chris Brasher was on my table, and we were discussing the possibility, and he thought
Oh,
that
because
was...
he's
he's into the horses. He's got a runner at Hexham this afternoon, apparently. So we decided amongst us that we'd do that one, and it's come up. So perhaps we'll have a bit of luck throughout the afternoon. It would be nice.
OK, well, I'll let you go back and
Thank you.
reunite yourself with Jenny and everyone back there.
Everybody, yeah. And I'm so pleased for this programme that it's been going for 40 years, and I hope it continues in great strength. I'm sure it will. I think the BBC will back it. I hope they back it. Need some more money, probably. But good luck to everybody who's sailing her.
Well said. Thanks very much, Des.
Thank you, Sue.
It's a great honour.